Another distinct shrubby plant family is Ericaceae. This family is not all shrubs. It's a rather diverse family, but it does have some pretty noteworthy members that are shrubby or woody at least. And even the leaves kind of start giving you a feel for this plant family being kind of tougher. So these are plants in Wisconsin. They do really well in the north. And this is the family Ericaceae. So we saw before the palm family Ericaceae. This is the one that, this is kind of the reason that I pronounced that other family so weird, Ericaceae. And this one, a little more properly, the Ericaceae family. And this is the common name is the heath family or the heather family. So with those leathery leaves, that's one of the tells. Another one is the kind of habitats you can find these in. Typically in more acidic soils, they do well in acidic soils. So northern part of Wisconsin, north of the tension zone, you get into habitat that's got a lot more bogs, more acidic soil. Around us in southern Wisconsin, we have very alkaline soil. So a big split in soil types in addition to those differences in climate and much more diversity north of the tension zone. So a couple illustrated here with their corresponding distributions in the state, illustrating pretty nicely that difference in the tension zone. A little bit of variation in how the flowers are put together. So the petals are connate, so petals are fused together, sometimes more open, as in this rhododendron. You can see the floral parts all the way down to the base, the reproductive parts, and sometimes rather closed up. So they have sometimes this urn shape to them. So if you see flowers with this appearance, this is the kind of flower you can find in a blueberry. That's a good indicator that you might be looking at Ericaceae. So urn-shaped, pretty good giveaway, and then just fused petals, also helpful. Kind of an interesting group here. This is the state flower of Connecticut, where I did my graduate work. Kalmia latifolia, the mountain laurel, is in Ericaceae and has these stamens that are, when they're first produced as this flower opens, the stamens are locked into these little pockets. So there's a little, you kind of see this unopened flower has little depressions in the petals where those stamens get kind of pinched and held in there. And as an animal goes through here and visits and forages for nectar and pollen, these are under tension and it'll release them and they'll kind of trigger and slap the insect with pollen. Kind of a neat adaptation there. Lots of different fruit types. We got fleshy and dry dehiscent, so capsules to berries to drupes, including the blueberries at the center here. And then over on the left here, these are huckleberries, also in this group. And economic value, rhododendrons are a commonly planted ornamental plant, including plants we call azalea. They're also in the genus rhododendron. And this other genus, vaccinium, kind of interesting to me, is the same genus that has blueberries and also cranberries. Cranberries are these low trailing kind of vine looking things. They're just sort of scrambling plants. They're not exactly vines, they're not twining on anything, but they do a good job of scrambling across the ground. They really like it in bogs. And then blueberries are just proper shrubs. So a little bit different habit there, different flowers as we'll see, but still in the genus vaccinium. And this is just an illustration of cranberry farming. So if you farm cranberries, when it comes time to harvest cranberries, they flood the bog. So they have them in natural or artificial bogs, and they plant them there. That's a habitat they like to grow in. And when it comes time to harvest them, they put water in and the cranberries float. So they're very good at floating. They float to the surface and then they release them from the plants where they've been produced. And then they corral them into these big corral areas and then send them up a conveyor. And it turns out that cranberry farming is pretty big in our state. So Wisconsin, one of the biggest cranberry producers in the world, and the United States, kind of running parallel with Massachusetts, a little bit more of a, they might get a little more fame for cranberry growing, I don't know. So I mentioned the flower types here. We've got the urn-shaped flowers in vaccinium blueberry, and then vaccinium cranberry. They've got these rather different flowers with the petals curved back and then really big anthers. This is a kind of pollination called buzz pollination, where they encourage a bumblebee to grab onto this and vibrate to release the pollen. And so it's kind of interesting, it's a convergent evolution strategy for different flowers to have that same kind of pollination system in very different plant families. So lots to mention. Maybe not so noteworthy as the individual names, bog rosemary, bearberry, huckleberry, and so on. But pretty diverse and again, pretty characteristic of these acidic soil, sometimes bog habitats, forest understory in the north,